So I'm John Chattman. I'm here with the one, the only Dave Pirner. How are you, sir? I feel like anytime that I do an interview these days, some massive change to the world happens and it shifts focus. And you're in Minneapolis.
Well, I spent 17 years in New Orleans because I thought that it was more integrated. So now that I'm back in Minneapolis, I'm like, oh, it's great to be back in the North where the Yankees are. People don't use the N word and whatever, And then this happens, and you're just not safe from it anywhere. Um, but I mean, it seems to have calmed down a little bit. Um, Stores are slowly starting to open. If you go down any main street, everything is covered with graffiti, and it's actually kind of beautiful. It's like everything is boarded up and it's covered with kind of, George Floyd graffiti, and it's something else. I've certainly never seen my little city looking like that, and that's kind of how I always thought of it. Like, we don't have big city problems in this place, and yeah, it's been happening forever.
So what's it been like? I mean, like you said, you recently returned, and you returned and you're in quarantine, and you not only do you return, but you make a new record in your old hometown,
Hmm.
and then you're in quarantine, so the album comes out. It's not
Yeah.
the usual thing where you're going out and you're touring and all that, and then something like this happens. And I mean, you're a creative type, so are you just taking it in, or has it kind of this? It sounds like such a bullshit question, because it's like, has it sparked any creative blah blah blah, and that's not what I'm asking. But like, is it kind of hard not to? And I'm using the word inspire, but I don't mean that word. I mean more like,
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
you know what I mean? Like, for me, I couldn't write. I'm a writer, and I couldn't write anything for the first 2 months of the pandemic, and only
I'm right
recently
there
had
with
like,
you. Terribly uninspiring.
yeah, it's
Terribly
terrible.
uninspiring.
I just really just wanted to,
It's just like,
yeah,
this is not giving me anything.
right. But
Like,
now, as we're, I want to say we're hopefully coming out of it, but who knows?
mm,
No one knows. But then you have something like the George Floyd thing happen, and there is some kind of thing, that you can gravitate toward because something so wrong has happened, and it always happens, unfortunately. And I'm just curious, I mean, you're literally living there.
yes, I am.
On top of all of this shit that we're going through, you're there. So if I could ask a run-on question, what's been going on over there for you?
Well, it's hard to explain. I watched Dave Chappelle talking today. He's got a new Netflix thing out. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet. I read about it though.
It's extremely powerful and not very funny, but at the end of it, he goes, "Oh wow, this is really not funny." And then he said something like, I got some pussy jokes too, but I just don't feel like telling them right now," or something like that. I mean, but he lays out exactly how he feels, and parts of it I could kind of relate to. I mean, Lizzo made me cry when I saw her talk about Minneapolis and how this whole thing made her feel. Um, but it's this very strange sense of, I can't explain it, and I would say I was thinking about how to sort of approach the whole thing, and I was like, well, I have two African American men in my band. If you want to ask questions, ask them, because I feel somewhat underqualified, if you know what I'm saying. So it's been a real strange mix of shame and also sort of pride in the showing of the people on the streets, and and the streets really speaking to power, which is what needs to happen. Yeah, I think the mayor was doing great. He really said some well placed things like, oh, lives are more important than brick and mortar, and a few things like that that I thought were really articulate. And then he kind of caught it uh, pretty badly when he said, "I'm not going to defund the police," and then everybody just sort of shoot him out of the whole thing and shamed him. Um, so, I mean, how does it affect the way that I feel about the city that, I was gone for 18 years. Well, I was gone for 35 years, really. Um, but it does affect me in a way that when I see the footage of, or when I talk to people in Minneapolis, the crowds that are rioting there's seemingly as many white people as black people. And that's the Minneapolis that I know. I guess I've always thought that this was not a racist place, and this is very disappointing as far as all that's concerned. And I've always thought that we were progressive and that we were liberal. So it's a little heartbreaking to that effect. But I believe a change is going to come, and I believe that this is the only way it's going to happen.
It's fun. This has unfortunately happened before, and it's happened. It probably is happening right now somewhere. Unfortunately, this is the first time that it's happened where I actually feel part of the problem, even if I'm not doing anything. Like right now, we're having an interview,
Yeah,
and it's just two white guys talking about the problem. You know,
right. I'm
Kim,
very fortunate to be in an integrated band. I'll tell you that. It's just given me so much uh useful information in my relationships with the people that are closest to me. Um they are my brothers in arms, and we spend a lot of time in close quarters, and everything is up for discussion. And what else are you going to do when you're on a bus for 12 hours? I mean, so I never feel stupid. I never feel embarrassed when they laugh at me if I ask a dumb white boy question. But really, it really helps to you know be a part of the world outside, man. I mean, the more isolated you are, the harder it is to understand anything, as far as I'm concerned. So
so
I don't remember what the question is, but
no, it was just in terms of being inspired at this point, or not necessarily
yeah.
inspired.
Um,
I mean, I know
well,
you released the free downloads, which obviously
sure.
makes a
Mhm.
ton of sense.
And the we're doing these live streams every Friday, and we did a song last week that was called Black and Blue from our first record. And I was like, well, here's a song I wrote 20 years ago, and it was actually like 30 years ago. I don't know if that ever happens to you, but I'm like, has it really been that,
I just
Um,
I just did it with the Jack Nicholson shirt. I was like, oh, that was 20 years ago
right.
now. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, it was
Right.
40.
Right. So, it's a straight up song about police brutality. It's just coming from a guy in a punk rock band. But the first time we ever played, the cops came to the gig and they broke it up and they roughed people up and they threw everybody out. And early in the days of playing with the band, it happened all the time. You'd be playing at a house party, or you'd be at a house party, and the cops come in and they just start pushing people around. And there's always a bit of excessiveness. There's never any sort of, they're cops. So you learn to dislike them. And so here I am singing a song I wrote 30 years ago, and it seems to apply to the situation fairly well. Um, I mean, throughout the however 37 years I've been writing songs, I mean, all that stuff is kind of in there, you know, my feelings about law and order and religion and institutions and this, that, and the other thing. So that the part of it that's hard to deal with is that it seems uh, redundant. It's infuriating because you think that it's not going to happen again for some reason. So to that effect, it's like, how many times can you write the same protest song, or how many times how many different ways are there to say it where it's something that is just constantly reoccurring? um, I guess that's kind of my take on it. And you know, my guess is that these things have to, as my drummer Michael Bland says all the time, I need to marinate on it a little bit more. You know,
It's
see how.
it's interesting because you do say about the protest songs, like they're all this, they still apply today and how relevant they are today. And I just read an article that like Rage Against the Machine's first 3 albums are in like the top 20, I think, right now.
Right
Something
now?
like that. Like right now, maybe it's the top two, maybe it's the top 200, but like 3 of their songs are in the top 100. But it just speaks volumes. It's like we didn't get it then, and we're still not getting it now. That it needs to like how much louder do you need to play the song to get the message?
I like the way you put that.
You know?
Yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, I don't know all the words to Rage Against the Machine songs, but when somebody was kind of saying, "Well, what is with all these white kids out there protesting?" I'm like, well, I mean, when I was whatever 19, I was in a punk rock band, and we were listening to the Clash doing White Riot and this, that, and the other thing. You got all kinds of like rage building up in you, and I mean, I'm still pissed off. I just, you know, I just found different ways of dealing with it. But I mean, I thought Rage Against the Machine were raging against a lot of stuff, but I don't know exactly what it was.
I think it was everything.
Sorry.
So how have you been, like, you know, in terms of just like I'll use marinate even though I'm using it differently with hurry up and wait right now, you know, that the album's been out and you've just kind of
The
been
title is certainly a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, when you said it, I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. It was supposed to be more of an analogy of just being on the road, like you're always hurrying up and waiting for, you know, this, that, and the other thing. But very frustrating to put out a record and not be able to promote it, go out and play it, go, you know. We were in San Diego about almost 2 months into a tour. So, I mean, the good part of that was that we only had maybe 5 or 6 shows left. So we'd had a good show in New York, a good show in Chicago, and a good show in LA. And that's always a relief when I can fly good in the big cities or whatever. And then we went to San Diego. I got a knock on the door by Janine, who's my tour manager, who you just talked to. And she said, tour's over. And I didn't see that coming. So we had just played in LA, and there was there was nothing as far as people worrying about a pandemic. It hadn't really hit yet.
yeah.
So here I am. And when you get done with a tour, you kind of want to go be alone, you know, because you're in close quarters with these people, for really tight quarters with the same 6 or 7 people for indefinitely, well, the whole time you're on the road. So when you get home, you kind of want to be alone for at least a couple days, but this is ridiculous, you know.
Right.
I mean,
After a
ah,
tour, after a tour, you really want to be home for at least a
yeah.
couple months and not leave the
Yeah.
house.
So it's frustrating, and actually doing these live streams make me more nervous than playing gigs. It's just because it's streaming and there's no audience and there's no band and every mistake is very apparent and yeah, and it's like kind of invasive there. And it's in your own space.
Right.
So I always think of it as, this happens, we do sound check, we set up, we get ready, we play a show. That's the job, the trade. So this is odd. I mean, I'm glad we're doing it, but it just makes me really nervous. And the thing that I thought was funny about it is that I hate it when people pull out their phones at concerts.
Yeah.
So you're playing to a bunch of phones, you can't see their faces. And now all I'm doing is playing to a phone.
Right. Right.
No faces behind it. You know. So
It's
yeah, pretty
funny.
frustrating. And then
Yeah.
I put out a book, which I was also supposed to be promoting. So we had all these things scheduled, book signings and record releases and record store day and all this. It was all kind of, the record was supposed to come out on record store day, and it was going to be like, hey, we're going to go play at record stores or whatever we would normally be doing.
Right.
Yes, that has all been mercilessly set aside.
So
So it's pretty frustrating. I mean, I don't know how else to get the music out there. So
so would you? I mean, everything's on hold, right? So I mean, do you
pretty much, except
eventually?
I just released all this stuff, and I hope people are finding their way to it. The book and the record. Well, you can't get them at book or record stores, so
I mean, I guess the thing.
that just pisses me off. It's just like more money in Bezos' pocket or something. I don't know.
It really is, but the thing is, I mean, people would give anything, at least me personally, just to be in a live, music setting. So I mean, there is that, that I mean, the second that the hounds are released, and and you have that, um, the hounds are released. Can the hounds be released? Is that an expression?
That is an expression.
Okay.
Release the hounds. I think
Release
Dr.
the hounds.
Byrne,
I don't know.
Dr.
That's like,
Byrne says that, but I think
no, but I really feel. I mean, look, you're gonna have a lot of people who are very cautious, for rightfully so, but you're gonna have people like me as well, where just the anticipation and just the, geez, I want to go to a fucking show so bad, and the minute that phase 4 or whatever it is, the second I'm there, and obviously taking the proper
that what I
precautions and
call
all that.
phase 4.
I think that's what it is.
What phase are we in now?
I don't know where you guys are. In New York, we just hit phase 2.
Oh, it's different in every state.
I think it's, yeah, it
Do you know
probably
what
is.
phase we're in? Are we in phase 2 or phase 3? We didn't even get the news about phases
I
here
mean,
yet.
it could also be a New York State thing, but I do know that concerts are going to be at the very, the
Well,
last.
we had a discussion just the day before yesterday with when are we going to get to go out and play again? And there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on as far as, and then I'm watching the news and it's like, okay, now President Trump is going to have rallies and everyone has to sign a release.
Right.
So is that what we're going to do? Because the promoters aren't going to pay for the insurance. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and somebody sues the band because they get sick, there's no insurance to cover it or whatever. So that's pretty frustrating. And we talked about we toured with Local H, was our opening band for our last tour, and apparently they had pulled off the drive-in theater thing where they played at a drive-in. Oh, they're going to? They haven't actually done it yet? Well, the one thing that I did not take into account because I was like, well, what do you actually? Chappelle was talking about this, and it was kind of funny. He goes, well, what am I going to do? Play at a drive-in, and then people are going to honk their horns when they think something's funny. But yeah, I mean, you can open your windows, but it had not occurred to me that now, I guess, if you go to a drive-in, you can tune the movie in on your car stereo.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, they used to have these metal boxes that you would clip on your window.
Yeah, they don't do
I
that.
mean, that's not gonna sound very good.
I just went to a drive-in a few weeks ago with my kids, and it's literally you tune it to the radio.
What did you see?
Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle?
Yeah, it was the Robert Downey Jr. remake.
Oh, how is it?
It was excruciating. It was an hour and a half drive away.
Oh my God! Just to add to the fun.
But it was an experience that I wanted to give my kids. It was tough. It was a 5-hour experience.
Yeah,
a really bad movie, but it was a great experience. The movie was not great, but you hook it to your, you just turn your radio on.
It almost makes the movie kind of not as important.
Yeah, no, it was the experience while I was in the movie itself. The experience part kind of took the back seat of just how awful the movie was.
Yeah.
But
the kids are sitting there going, I can't believe this is happening.
Loved it. I can't believe we're outside. I can't believe we're, whatever. Oh my God, it's dog shit though.
We were talking about this, about the playing at drive-ins thing, and I went, the last drive-in movie I saw was Independence Day with Will Smith. I remember it because the night sky totally stole the show. I found myself looking at the clouds like past the screen.
Yeah.
And we backed up a pickup truck and we put a bunch of sleeping bags in the back of it, and it's fun.
It was a cool experience. There was like a farting dragon in the movie, so it wasn't quite the Independence Day experience. But I mean, listen, I see them going in that direction, for concerts. I mean, for now anyway. But hey, listen, whatever, man. I mean, I think it'll be so much sweeter whenever you guys can get back on the road, and Anyway, Dave, I can probably talk to you all night. I'm gonna let you go.
It's been a real pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. Keep making music when you feel inspired to, and when the world's in a little better place.
Yes, I feel like I've been curbing my enthusiasm for quite some time, but this has given me some time to get caught up on curb your enthusiasm. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Do you respect wood?
I respect wood. I respect wood.
Yeah.
I'm an oak man.
Dave, you're the best, my friend.
All right, my man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
I will see you in New York.
All right, man. Stay safe, okay?
All right, John. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, take care.
All right, peace.